That's nice, isn't it? Give me a second, just waiting. I'm going to try and share the link for anybody watching right now. And we'll get into it. Right. So, Chelsea. Where to begin? Where to begin? Is this a bigger game than Arsenal? No. I think we can objectively say no. Well, we can't objectively say that at all, can we? That's a stupid way of using the word. But are they a bigger rival to us? Maybe in the past few years they sort of have been. Arsenal, Spurs are now kind of, I don't know, our trajectories have always been quite different, right? Haven't they? We've had years and years of Arsenal being way, way better than Spurs. Past few years, Tottenham being a lot better than Arsenal, even though they would always point to their FA Cups that they've won that we haven't won. In reality, we've been quite further ahead of Arsenal, and Chelsea have kind of been more our prominent rival in that sort of sense. 16-17, the Leicester year, the various FA Cups. I think there's a very different feeling for me. I want to say that there's a real hatred for Chelsea from me. I find it more, and it's a different type of hatred. Like I think Arsenal, there's a real sporting hatred there. There is a real sporting rivalry, and I think that does span out into the fan bases with various different issues and stuff like that. But with Chelsea, I mean, there is a sporting rivalry there, so you can't deny that. But the hatred stems from, I mean, as far as I'm aware, not that I've ever been involved in any of this stuff, but the hatred stems from the terraces. Um, a lot of people who get involved in that type of thing will probably tell you that Tottenham and Chelsea do not get along very well at all. And I guess the point I'm sort of coming around to is how highly do we rate this game? It's definitely higher. It's more of a rivalry than say Tottenham West Ham. I still always want to beat West Ham, but I don't feel that as keenly as I do as a result against Arsenal or a result against Chelsea. I definitely revel more in watching Arsenal lose than I do Chelsea lose. But I absolutely love beating Chelsea. I loved beating them last year so easily. I think that was the easiest win I've ever seen Spurs have against Chelsea. Um, Oliver Skipp's worldie. I can't remember who else got it. We won 2-0, didn't we? I think we did. Christ, this is bad, isn't it? Let's have a look. Tottenham and Chelsea. I know Skippy scored his worldie, didn't they? Tottenham and Chelsea. Where's that 11v11 site when you need it? Right, here we go. So yeah, we beat them 2-0, didn't we? Harry Kane, of course it was Harry Kane, wasn't it? What was our lineup that day? Forster, Royal, Longley, Romero, Davis, Dyer, Højbjerg, Kulusevski, Skip, Richarlison, Kane. I mean, that's threadbare, isn't it? That's threadbare. But we still beat them, and I've never seen us have a an easier time against them. They were very, very dejected. They were very down and out at that point. They didn't feel like a Chelsea at all, but had a point to prove against Spurs, the Spurs that they apparently hate. And that's something that's kind of different about this one, right? This with this lot. I think there's been lots of conversations on this pod, and you see across like, social media that the underlying data would suggest that Chelsea aren't actually as bad as results would. But when you break it down, results are still not going their way. They're still languishing sort of mid-table. They don't seem to be able to buy a goal. And I know we got to be careful what we say ahead of these type of games. People are very conscious that things are going to jinx and all that type of stuff. But I don't know, this Chelsea side they're a bit funny. They're a bit of a weird one. I can't see a lot of this team coming to White Hart Lane and thinking, I want to beat Spurs because they're Spurs, because of the rivalry, because of the hatred that they have. They don't have these players like John Terry anymore, like Frank Lampard, people that sort of had it in them to really detest Tottenham, to pollute the dressing room with kind of ideas that Tottenham are scum and all this sort of thing. I think they probably look at Spurs as they look at any other kind of big team now, that they want to come to our big, shiny new stadium where the atmosphere is going to be massive. They know that their gaffer used to be our old gaffer, and they're going to want to put on a performance, right? Fine. They can give it a go. I mean, ultimately, we're a better team than Chelsea, aren't we? We are a better team than Chelsea right now. We're at least playing much better than they are. We definitely haven't spent anywhere close to as much money as Chelsea have. But as Ange himself this week has said, you can't. That's a fool's errand to try and win football matches by just accumulating big, expensive footballers. It's about kind of breeding a mentality, getting into the players that you have, making sure there are players who don't mind sitting on the bench, who can come on and change the game for you in those moments that they get. I know people are very, very quick to want to write off the likes of Oliver Skip. They want to write off the likes of Ben Davis because they're plain. They're seen as bang average. But I think these are the type of players that Ange Postecoglou is talking about, the type of players who will sit on the bench and then give it everything, do what they can. They won't make a fuss. They won't complain about playing more. They're happy to play for Spurs, and they'll get involved. They'll get involved when they need to and hopefully make a difference. I mean, Ben Davis didn't really make much of a difference in the last game he played, did he? Didn't share himself in glory in that one, but we got to see it that some of these lads are going to be there to make up numbers, but when called upon, can do a job. I don't know. I haven't made a very succinct point there at all. Should have just referred to what Andrew was saying about it, shouldn't we? Really, but you get the point. You know what I'm saying with this rambling stuff that I go on about. It's Chelsea is a funny one. It is a funny one because I really, really, really detest Chelsea. I really do hate them, and I really hate the fact that Pochettino went there. Um, he's spoken about this on sort of various different pods this week. Spoke about it with Phil on the Patreon Thursday Bulletin pod. Talking about the fact that Pochettino is a guy that he he always made out that football was more than just a job, more than just a profession, more than just a game. It's such a huge part of our lives. There's such an emotional wealth to football, to the game, to the narratives around it. A lot of the stuff that Ange Postecoglou talks about, they're cut from a similar cloth in that way. They're guys that understand the value of football to the supporters. That this isn't just something about them. Antonio Conte is very much a manager who, Jose Mourinho, another example, where football is about them. Football is about their glory. It's about them leading a team to glory. It's about their name being, etched into the halls of greatness. Whereas I really feel like people like Pochettino, people like Ange Postecoglou, know that they had a real commitment, if you like, to creating joy for fans, for people, and I mean, this is more explicitly what Ange talks about for working class people having a bit of joy in their lives. So that's what the football is about, right? And then, I think it's a long time since football's been a working class game and all that type of thing. I mean, you would say on balance it is still predominantly right, but these sort of models are a bit outdated now. This kind of rhetoric is all a bit kind of bleary eyed nostalgia. I don't think we need to resign this to like a class thing as such. It's just that football is something, a game, a sport that does bring joy to people, and I think like the emotional depth to football, because it is such a fast paced game. It's a game where moments can change just an entire course of a club's history. It's it is something special. And my big roundabout point that I'm trying to get to here is that Mauricio Pochettino was always somebody who, like Ange, led us to believe that he understood this stuff. That he understood that football was more than just a job. It was more than just winning a trophy. That the journey was important. Thank you, football, as he said. Without football, these emotions don't think they're possible to live. That's what he said in a kind of broken English, but he said it better in English than I'd say it in Spanish. And I'm supposed to be half Argentinian, so there we go. Um, and he's trying to get around it at the moment, saying, "Well, I only said I'd not join Barcelona because I'm an Espanyol man, and I'd not join Arsenal because I'm a Tottenham man." But the misery that those Chelsea teams put his Tottenham team under, be it the first League Cup final, be it the various FA Cup, I think it was, is it one or two FA Cup semi-finals, be it the year when Leicester won the league and they were so gleeful in beating us at Stamford Bridge, the Battle of the Bridge, right? Be it the 16-17 season when Antonio Conte's side like romped to glory, even though we had such an unbelievable year. You would have thought that Mauricio Pochettino would have gotten that a bit more. You would have thought that Mauricio Pochettino maybe would have understood that a club that sings "We Hate Tottenham" before every single home game, you know, isn't really a isn't. You're splitting hairs when you're kind of picking between them and Arsenal in many ways. Um, And I think for balance, we probably do need to address the fact that we quite publicly courted him this summer. We quite publicly really kept him at a comfortable arm's length, shall we say. He was definitely on the short list for managers. And I think once he'd either be it briefing through the press, briefing through his mates, let everybody know that he would be interested in becoming the Spurs manager again. I think we almost had that as yeah, okay, cool. So we know that if all these other managerial searches fail, we've got Maurizio on the back burner and we can bring him in. And then we didn't do that when it became clear that we might be able to get Ange, or maybe not Nagelsmann, but at least when we started having conversations with him, when Luis Enrique, it felt like there was a bit of movement there that he was maybe potentially interested in taking the Spurs job. It felt that at that point, suddenly we started briefing everybody, no, we're not interested in Pochettino. Never have been. Don't want him back. Didn't leave a great impression when he left the club at the first time. Water under the bridge. It's done. So I guess we kind of mugged him off a bit. We did. And he's probably then thinking, right, well, I need to get on with my life. Here's a great job for me, Chelsea, on paper anyway. A lot of money, big London club. I think he's still got a home in London. You know, you can see why that all fit into place. However, right, and this is the big thing for me, right? This is the big thing. Football is not a rational game, right? It's an emotional game. And if you want to boo Pochettino, if you want to clap him, if you want to say, great guy, gave me some great moments, one of the best managers of my lifetime, you crack on, right? Because that's where your emotional line is leading you, right? That's where you want to go. But equally, if you want to boo him, if you want to call him a snake, big fat loser. I mean, you don't need to be fat phobic, do you? Don't need to do. Come on, the guy enjoys a bread basket with his steak and Malbec, doesn't he? Come on, all right. You can't blame him for that. He says he's had a career as a professional footballer, right? Think about the discipline that takes, the years of discipline. He's a manager. Let him get a bit of a belly, you know? Don't need to start calling him all these horrible names, right? Um, but if you want to call him a snake, you want to boo him, you know, not here to police that. I think really the truth of the matter is, and this is coming from a man who's just spent about 12 to 13 minutes talking about Maurizio Pochettino. Is it really now we need to get over him, don't we? And I think we are over him. We need to just think about the fact that we've got Ange Postecoglou in charge of our club. You can keep your Pochettino, Conte, and Mourinho, and even Christian Gross. And I think that's a bit of a stray, isn't it? I don't think Grossy needed to get anything there. But we got Ange Postecoglou in charge. Great bloke, knows what to say. You know, I think he's. I think he's a great guy. We're at the start of something beautiful here, right? We're at the start of something wonderful, and that's the past. We've had a great time under Maurizio Pochettino. The best times of my life, Amsterdam. You know, that 16-17 season, unbeaten at White Hart Lane, knowing that the lane was going to get knocked down. The type of football we were playing, the team, the unity. And this is the one thing I do want to say. There's a lot of this now. This Spurs have never had unity like we got now. Bollocks. Still don't buy it. Still don't stand by it. That core team, Dele Alli, of Moussa Dembele, Victor Wanyama, Rose, Walker, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Kane, Ericsson, Sonny. So many good players. We had such a good unity there, right? We did have this before. And it's lovely to see that we got it back again. And recency bias is fine, right? It's fine to have that. But also don't deny what happened before, right? Because it was brilliant. It was wonderful. It was a lovely time, right? And we're on to the good times again now, hopefully. Hopefully. But Chelsea are a banana skin team for us, right? They're it's never usually a good time they've given us over the years. And the narrative here is a very interesting one. Pochettino's return, coming back, Ange Postecoglou against Pochettino, Chelsea having this awful start to the season, Pochettino returning to his old happy hunting grounds. What will happen? What will happen? And I mean, like I say, if football were a rational game, we would say, well, we're a much better team than Chelsea right now. We should go out there, do a professional job with everything that this new gaffer's telling us to do. We should be able to go out there and just get the job done, get our business done, nice and easy. 2-0, stay top of the table, move some points ahead of Arsenal, who are going to lose to Newcastle this weekend. Bob's your uncle, or Angie's your uncle now. Angie's our dad now. He's not our uncle, is he? So that's how it should go. But will it go that way? We don't know, do we? We don't know. And it is. I'm sort of veering massively on this one between yeah, we're going to be all right. We'll get the job done here. And this could be the game because we flirted with it the past few games a bit. This could be the one where we just maybe don't quite get the job done. We don't get it across the line. But I don't, you know what? Even just saying that, the words leaving my mouth, right? I don't really feel that way. I feel that this Spurs team is built. I don't really feel like, I think that's still just kind of noise of old Spurs teams plaguing us. This sooner or later it's going to go bad. What if it just doesn't? Doesn't have to go bad. And everything that we've seen from this team so far, everything we hear from the manager, everything we hear from the players would suggest that they are all focused on doing a good job. They're all focused on winning, of taking each game as it comes. Every single game being a cup final, knowing that title talk is premature, knowing that there's a long way to the end of the season, knowing that they will take every single game seriously, right? And maybe against Fulham, we did start to see that slip a bit. We saw those standards start to slip. And Postecoglou, you know, wasn't very happy about it and let them know that. Let them know that to the national media, right? Um, we said this. I mean, this is what I was saying with Jamie at the start of the week, wasn't I? Jamie Weir, Sky Sports is Jamie Weir on Rule the Roost podcast. Who'd have thunk it? I don't know why I said that. I really hate when people say things like that. Who'd have thunk it and fricking and things like that. I really do. Oh, do you know what? If I wasn't streaming this live, I would have even been tempted to delete that. I'm streaming this one live for all the patrons. I'm just giving this a go, right? Doing a YouTube live as a preview. We'll see how it goes. Friday afternoons, maybe maybe people will like it. But for all of you that want to listen to this while you're walking the dog and everything, here it is in Patreon format. Patreon.com/RTR pod for anyone that isn't a patron yet. Thank you very much. What we were saying at the start of the week is that, everybody said at Leicester the wheels were going to fall off sooner or later, and they just didn't. They went into every single game and they kept winning. Number one, the fact that we don't have Europe this year is a big help for us. Keeps the squad fresher, keeps us fitter, right? Carabao Cup, yeah, I wasn't happy to go out of it, but now we're out of it. Oh well. Less games for us. FA Cup coming up, that's fine because FA Cup isn't usually, doesn't usually require you play 2 games in a week. I think they've binned off replays as well now, or maybe it's replays from next year they've binned off. Can't quite remember. I think next year they're suggesting. I don't actually even think it's definite yet that they'll be binning off replays, but I believe FA Cup replays are played during the week sometimes. So basically, my point is we might have 2 games a week at some points in this season if we do all right in the FA Cup. However, everything is there to suggest that Spurs should be able to make a good fist of this early promise, right? That if we at least finish in the Champions League places in the top 4, or is it top 5 now? Again, maybe I'll research this stuff. Let's just say if we finish in the top 4, that's a massively successful season, the way we were thinking about this at the start of the season. And yeah, everyone will say you were top of the league and you bottled it, and they'll be putting how many days we were top of the league and all that type of stuff. But that's how it is. And as long as Arsenal don't win it, if we don't win it, then fine. But the fact we're creating this whole new backroom staff, the fact that we're bringing in, this whole new scouting department basically suggests that, that we've got a long-term vision for the club, at least that we're going to be looking to add some quality acquisitions to what we've already got in this solid base. But maybe the fact we're getting it all done ahead of January, I don't know. Maybe that's promising. If we drop, I don't really actually, I don't even need to put a number on it. I don't need to put a number on it. If we get in some quality players, I say that because somebody like Vicario, right? When we signed him, 15, 16 million or whatever it was this summer, people were like, who's this Tim Pot keeper Tottenham have got? He's one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League now. Probably one of the best goalkeepers in Europe, statistically. So money doesn't really matter as long as we are putting this, brand spanking new scouting department to good use to bring in some gems for us. If we add a couple of quality players into this team, and we are still around about the type of position that we're in the top three, we're still in touch and distance, then we may well be able to do something. We may be able to capitalize on the fact that we don't have Europe this year. And games like this, games like Chelsea, when it's a new team, it's a new mentality. When you got players like Romero saying we don't want to be like these Tottenham teams of old. So many players have come through Tottenham and left with nothing. These aren't his words exactly, but it's to this effect. So many great players have come through Tottenham and left with nothing. We don't want to be those players. We want to change that. We want to be something better than that, right? Everything that Ange Postecoglou is saying, that he wants to kind of change the mentality, change the output of it, the ethos, all of it. Doesn't want to be a thing, right? That the Patreon pods, that we as fans also need to start to shake this idea that, oh, it's Chelsea, or oh, we never, West Brom away, that's an horrible one for us. Just need to start to adopt these mentalities that the proper top teams do, where they're like, let's win these games, let's win them. And I'd still say mentality, I'd still say mentality is one of those things that holds Arsenal back, because they are, all right, historically speaking, they've definitely been a more successful side than Spurs, but they still. It's funny seeing whenever you see kind of ahead of if there's ever been a controversial game between like Liverpool and Arsenal, or in the build up to that, teams like Arsenal, teams like United, they do look down on a club like Arsenal. They look down on the fact that Arsenal think they kind of belong alongside United and Liverpool, whereas it's funny really because we're always so used to saying, "Oh, we want to get better than Arsenal. We want to win more than them." But clubs like Liverpool and United are miles ahead of a team like Arsenal in terms of success. That somebody like Arsenal is, you know, they've had a decent history. They've won a few things, but they've never really been one of the proper big boys. They've never really been one of the proper commanding dynasty teams, right? I've never seen Arsenal have a like dominance over football like United had in the kind of 90s and early noughties. You've never seen them have something like Liverpool had all across like the 70s and like the 80s as well, right? Winning, title after title after title, European Cup, European Cup, European Cup. Arsenal have never been that side, right? And I still think that plagues them. It's the fact that they still do have these dodgy Spurs-like results, and it's definitely come since Wenger's gone. They've had that little period of Wenger, right? Especially his early to mid part with Wenger, when they were a great side and they suddenly were playing way above their station. But since then, they've kind of returned back to their sort of level, which is like an all right side, a good side that should be expected to beat most teams, but when it really comes down to it, winning the top stuff, it's going to take something special for them to do that. I say this, maybe they'll do it this year. They look very good again. Whatever. Let's hope they don't, but it's a possibility. It's horrible. It's a possibility. But to take this back to Spurs, we just need to shake the habit. We need to shake these kind of old cobwebs, these old sort of brainworms of we're Spursy, we don't win these type of games. Oh, we're waiting for a banana skin. No, we have to take each game as it comes. We have to look at the evidence that's been laid out before us to this point. We're a good team, right? We have managed to fight until the end for many of these games that we've now won. Think about Sheffield United, for example. Obviously, we made harder work of that than we maybe should have done, but these things happen. And what we didn't do, unlike these old Spursy teams that we talk about, we didn't let them get their one goal, let our heads drop, and then just, succumb to the loss and say, oh, well, that's just what happens to Spurs every now and again. We're just that type of team. Because I don't think these lads are wired that way. And this is what I was saying earlier about like Pochettino's Tottenham, is that they weren't either. For a brief while, for a brief moment, there were some of these games. I think it's Swansea, isn't it? I can't remember if it's Swansea or Cardiff. One of the Welsh teams away in that gold kit when we came back and blitzed them like second half when it looked like we were going to lose it. so many games when Amsterdam, right? The amount of wins we notched up against Manchester City, winning games away at Old Trafford, that sort of a thing, right? There was a different mentality there. And it disappeared for a bit the past few years, but it's back again now, seemingly. And we keep talking, I mean, everything a test, a test, a test. It's not a test, is it? It's just it's a game of football, right? What's the test? Can Spurs win? Yeah, well, then every single football match is a test. And I mean, that sounds like a corny Instagram tile, doesn't it? Every football game is a test. Tag a mate, tag a mate who thinks this too. Do you know what I mean? Like sort of basic footy lad stuff, isn't it? That. And my point was kind of contrary to that in that it's a game of football, right? Ange Postecoglou wants to win. This whole team wants to win, right? They don't want to go out and get get jitters about playing Chelsea and all this type of stuff. I just don't think they're built that way. I don't think we are built that way. Um, Mauricio Pochettino. Mauricio Pochettino, back to him. He has done his press conference now, and he said that he's happy to see Tottenham doing so well under Ange Postecoglou. Maybe he's trying to butter us up. Maybe he's trying to butter us up like he does his bread. You know, I was talking about him earlier on, liking a bit of bread with his ribeye, oca de beefer, and his Malbec, right? With a 51. Wow, blimey. 51-year-old will return to Tottenham Hotspur for the first time since he was sacked in 2019. When he was asked if Spurs now are genuine title contenders, he said, "Yes, I think so. I think they're doing a fantastic job. Ange and all the coaching staff are doing a fantastic job. Of course, very good players, very good team. You can feel they can be a contender. It's early in the season, but they are showing the qualities to be a contender. I don't know Postecoglou very well, but I'm happy for him and the club that they're doing well after 4 years." And I like that. That's a nice little barb. That's a nice little dig at Mourinho. It's a nice little dig at Conte. It's maybe even a little dig at Daniel Levy there, just a little bit, a little bit. That is quite funny. We cannot forget all that happened when we were there. It's normal, but we are very positive people. At the same time, we are very grateful people. And when the club is doing well, we keep these links. And always you are happy when the club is doing well. He said it'll be a special, happy day. And when asked if he had a message for Daniel Levy, his message to his former chairman would be, "Thank you." It's a bit David Brenty, that, and a little bit David Brenty. He's one of the most important people for me. He gave me the possibility to be at Tottenham. It was not only a professional relationship, it was a friendly relationship. There you go, scandal. Nearly 6 years together. It was an amazing journey. Only I can say thank you to Daniel. Look, like I was saying at the top, got to sort of put that to bed, don't we? Got to put that to bed a little bit because, look, and I think this fixture will, hopefully. I can't remember which, I think it was the Athletics pod that was saying, anyway, with the idea of like booing a manager. How do you boo a manager really anyway? It's not like he's on the ball, is it? Unless like the ball goes out of touch or something like that, and he does some kind of keepy uppy or something to keep it in, then you can give him a boo and a way if he messes it up. But it's all a bit of a sideshow, isn't it? And this is coming from somebody that burnt his autobiography on a barbecue. That was a good one, wasn't it? Making my way into the Daily Mail and the Sun. What was that for, Jack? For book burning. Great. But look, let's bin it off. Let's forget about him. We've got Ange. Whatever. You know, Ange Postecoglou anticipates Chelsea boss Mauricio Pochettino will receive a positive welcome from all connected with Spurs. That feels a little bit like Ange being sort of like a Passag dad. I fully expect that you will be not disgracing yourselves, right? That you will be giving them a good return because it would be childish otherwise. This isn't what Ange Postecoglou said, but that's kind of what it feels like a bit, doesn't it? Everyone I speak to around here, and there's plenty of people who still worked with him, can't speak highly enough of him as a person and as a manager. I doubt there will be anything but respect for Maurizio from anyone at this football club, supporters or people associated. But it doesn't mean we're going to give him a guard of honour on Monday night because we want to win. I don't think he would expect that, but his tenure here and his impact here is undeniable and will stand the test of time. Whenever people think of Maurizio and his time here as a Spurs manager, they will only look upon it with respect and fondness. You know, he's a good bloke, Anthony. He's a good bloke. And it's true. I like when you, and I think this is the important thing. Chelsea's Pochettino, I want to see him fail. I want to see Chelsea fail. I want to see him bomb out. If he was even at Manchester United, right, and having the type of season he's having right now, I would feel bad for him. I would. Sorry, I would. But because he's at Chelsea, I'm not going to have that. Forget him. You know, forget him. We got Ange. I know this feels like, this is like the meme, isn't it? The guy with like the smiley face mask on. Was it Wojak? Do you call him Wojak? I always get, quoting, like going on about memes like this, Wojak. And I'm never too sure. I'm never too sure where these like intersect with the alt-right and all that type of thing. Do you know what I mean? Pepe the Frog and all that sort of thing. It's all a bit murky, in it, all a bit dodgy. But anyway, in this instance, Wojak behind the smiling face mask, all the sort of furious tears streaming down his face. That's what this podcast felt all a bit like, hasn't it, really, from me? But I promise that I am fully on board with Ange, fully on board for Spurs. Coys, coys, coys. Of course, I fucking am. I forget Chelsea. I shouldn't swear. Naughty, naughty. I'm trying to stop swearing so much. Some main talk from his press conference. Ben Davies is touch and go. He's had a bit of an ankle problem. Destiny Doggy only rated 50-50 by Postecoglou. So, that'll be interesting, but it will be Porro and Royale, you'd imagine, if neither Davis or Doggy is ready. I think Sessegnon is still not fit, is he? I don't know. Who knows? He's disappeared, isn't he, somewhere? Ange Postecoglou talking about us being top of the table and talk of a potential title challenge. He said, I'm not so much of a dreamer. I'm very much in the reality of day to day. We know there's another challenge on Monday night. Looking beyond that doesn't serve any purpose. The supporters, by all means, this is their football club. They've got to enjoy their football club if things are going well, and it provides them with some hopes, dreams, and aspirations. You know what, Ange? I don't believe you. I don't believe you that you're not a dreamer. I think that's a very smart way to address something like that as a professional, as a football manager, to address a question like that. Do you think Spurs are going to win the title? So if he says that, if he says yes, if he says no, whatever. What he's saying there is, look, my place here isn't to dream. My place here is to do the job that helps the fans realize their dream. But I don't think a guy who in his, what is he now, in his 60s, getting his first Premier League job, who has probably fought, well, not probably, who we know, well documented, has fought as hard as he has to get to this point in his career. He's a dreamer. He is, right? And he's a grafter. When I say a dreamer, I don't just mean he sits around and thinks, oh, it'd be nice to manage in the Premier League one day. He's grafted for it. He's made that a reality. He has brought his dream to life through hard work, right? This sounds a little bit Tory, doesn't it? But he, so this idea of being like stuck in the reality of the day to day, because he knows what it takes. He knows how hard it is going to be to win a Premier League. It's an elite. It's the most elite league in Europe, in the world, right? It's not going to be. You can't just rock up and win it, especially with Spurs, can you? So I get his point. But his whole, I'm not so much of a dreamer. No, don't buy it so much. Don't buy that one so much. Spurs will have had a 10-day break between games before facing Chelsea. Yeah, this is one thing, isn't it? Feels like an absolute biblical length of time since we've last played football. We had a couple of days off after the Palace game. We had a short turnaround between Monday to Friday, so it made sense to give the lads a couple of days off. They realised that when you have a couple of days off, you work doubly hard when you're in. So we've had 3 fairly intensive days. Um, Expanding on how best to use the gap between those matches, Postecoglou added, we want to try to compensate for the fact that we don't have a game in midweek because we're not in Europe and we're out of the Carabao Cup. It's important we keep all our players as fit as possible because without games in midweek, a lot of the guys aren't playing a lot and we're going to need them. And I guess there probably is something in that. It's a bit of a blessing and a curse. I think, let's be real, it's more of a blessing to be playing less games, to not be playing the European games. But there is something to be said, and I have seen it said, of professional athletes, the kind of precision tuned instruments that they are. They're human beings, but you know what I'm saying. That the lack of playing can also have an adverse effect on them, right? Muscles need to kind of warm up and all that type of stuff. I'm not a physio. Come on, like, look at me. All right. Do you know what I mean? I barely know what I'm talking about at the best of times, let alone talking about elite level athletes. But still, stuff that you read anecdotally is that there's a careful balance in keeping yourself fit as a professional player. I think there was something I remember reading once, Steve Redgrave, isn't it? The old rower who was so fit that when he retired, he had to continue training at like his Olympic pace and slowly, almost like, you know, when you're having withdrawal from substance or something like that, you to go cold turkey a lot of the time is actually said to be quite dangerous. And I think like with his fitness, he had to slowly work down his training regimen because of the effect it might have on his body, his heart, all that type of stuff. I think I seem to recall reading this once upon a time. Might be total bunkum. But yeah, he goes on and talks about Pochettino, all that type of thing. Doesn't want to roll out the red carpet for him, all that sort of thing, right? We know all that. We know all that. A few stats going into this one. Chelsea have scored more Premier League away goals against Tottenham in the competition than any other side. That's 51 goals. I would say they've always been something of a bogey team for us, even when they're a bit crap. They were always really good. It's just annoying, isn't it? It's annoying that 2 of our fiercest rivals throughout the Premier League era have been Arsenal and been Chelsea. 2 of the best sides that have ever been in the Premier League, really. Let's be honest. Feels very Spursy, for want of a better word, that, doesn't it? Spurs have picked up 26 points in their opening 10 Premier League games this season. Their best start to a top flight since 1960-61 when they won the double. Yes, we know that. We're still in the FA Cup. You know what? I was thinking that earlier, right? I was thinking earlier, we don't just have to. It was because I was watching the Beckham documentary. I've been banging on about that the past few years. I've been watching that on Netflix in sort of piecemeal fashion, picking up the odd sort of 10, 15 minutes here and there. And like they were talking about the year they won the treble and how they won the league, and they're like, yeah, that's good, but we want to win the lot. Love it if we, Spurs. We're all getting excited about, yeah, let's win the league this year. Could we? Can we? But what if we actually go on and do the double as well? Best starts for season since we've done the double. Let's do it again. Is that asking for a bit much? No, who cares? Chelsea have lost 15 Premier League games in 2023, only 1 fewer than their combined total defeats of 2021 and 2022. That's 16. Spurs have won their past 4 Premier League games, winning 5 in a row. In December 20... Hang on. Spurs have won their past 4 Premier League games, last winning 5 in a row in December 2018 when their manager was Mauricio Pochettino. Wowee. Since Chelsea's first game after the departure of manager Graham Potter, the Blues have won the fewest games of any ever-present Premier League side, and only Bournemouth have managed as few points. 18. Jesus, they are awful, aren't they? Pochettino has taken charge of more Premier League games for Tottenham than any other manager, 202. He will become the 5th manager to take charge against Spurs in a Premier League match, having previously managed them in the competition. Let's see if there's anyone in the comment section. Does anyone want to guess? Hang on. Uh, uh, does anyone want to guess? Anyone there want to guess who else has managed Tottenham? Who has managed Tottenham in a Premier League game and then played against us? I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. YouTube commenters. 5, 4, 3, 2. Well, okay, no one's doing it. Bun you all. Right, so we've had Martin Yole, Chris Hughton, Harry Redknapp, and Tim Gillet Sherwood are the other managers to also players in the Premier League. So it's kind of where we're getting to. It's it's going to be it's going to be difficult. Even Perisic, Ryan Sessegnon, and Manus Solomon are all going to miss the game. That's one thing that we do know. Brozier, Mudryk have both returned to training, are going to be available for selection. Chalobah, Chukwuemeka, Chilwell, Fofana, Lavia, and Kunu all remain out. It's just hard to know, isn't it? It's hard to know. Tony Starks on YouTube basically asked me, do I just love Pochettino because he was an RG and I am a bit as well? Probably did, even on a subconscious level. Yeah, maybe that did play into it. I think we've all got our weird biases and stuff, don't we? But it is mostly about the fact that we were just really good under him, weren't we? We were really good, and he seems like a good bloke, a top bloke, top bloke, top fella. But he's gone to Chelsea, so whatever. Maybe not that good of a bloke. And I just, I really don't buy. I've just got to say this now. I really don't buy the fact that he said, "Oh, I never said I'd play. I never said I wouldn't manage Chelsea. I just said I wouldn't manage Arsenal or Barcelona." Come on, come on. He said himself. He said himself when he was our manager. Chelsea are a bigger rival to Tottenham than Arsenal. Mug. Are we going to beat Chelsea? Are we going to beat Chelsea? Yeah. Yeah, we are. We're going to beat Chelsea 3-0. That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going. Do you know what I mean? I've spoken before about this that I maybe, and I might do it next year. It's too late to do it now and whatever. And I need to kind of think about the ethics behind it all. But I was thinking about doing a charity bet with all of these predictions. I've nabbed this from Blue. I've been on Blue Moon podcast, Man City podcast run by David Mooney. Been on there and doing like opposition previews and stuff like that. And they do I think it's a fiver he sticks on every single week into his predicted scores. And he collects that into a pot and gives it to charity at the end of the season. The winnings, the proceeds from it. And I think, if I was doing that, right, I would have done all right so far this year because I've gotten quite a few of them right. And this time I am going to say 3-0 to Tottenham. I think we're going to show up. I think a game at White Hart Lane under the lights, fiery atmosphere. Everyone's up for it. Players like Madders, players like Romero, Van der Ven, Bissouma, Sonny. Do you know what I mean? We've got so many proper lads here now. Vicario, what a player. What a keeper. I think they're going to be bang up for this. Bang up for it. I don't think we need to worry like we used to because I do think this team is built as something different. 3-0 Tottenham. Think we're going to have them. Come on, you Spurs. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, thanks for subscribing. If you're a patron. See, this is the thing. The platform's called Patreon and you're a patron, whatever. I don't know. If you do want to subscribe yet, patreon.com/RTRpod. We'll be doing the pod after the game, of course. It's Monday night fixture. Oh, and also the monthly wipe. It is written, it is narrated. I have some of the footage together now. I'm putting it together over the next couple of days. I've had a very, very, very busy period. But yeah, the latest monthly wipe the October wipe will be out imminently. So keep your beady, beady eyes peeled for that. But yeah, that's it. So long, farewell. Come on, you Spurs. Let's have a fucking Chelsea. Fucking Chelsea. Let's have them.